Good morning and welcome all to our webinar on mining in Latin American challenges and opportunities. Thanks for connecting. Thanks for sharing with us this hour today, this wonderful day of December. And here with three fantastic friends and amazing lawyers in Latin America. Um, I would like to take the time to introduce them. My name is Mariana Bosa. I'm the head of the oil and gas and mining practice at Brigard Urrutia. Brigard Urrutia is the largest law firm in Colombia. I am transnational attorney authorized to practice both in Venezuela and Colombia, and head of the oil and gas and mining practice, and one of the co-founder of Women in Mining Colombia. With me, Jaime Saldumbide, partner at Perez Bustamante and Ponce. Jaime is an experienced attorney in energy exploration and exploitation of natural resources and environmental law. He has spent decades advising oil and mining companies on their operations and negotiations in Ecuador and on the development of electricity and alternative energy projects. Thanks to his experience in this field, he is one of the most well-regarded experts in Ecuador. Rafael Vergara. Well, welcome, Jaime. Rafael Vergara. Rafael is a partner in Carey, Chile. Rafael Vergara is co-head of the firm's Natural Resources and Environment Group. His practice focuses on natural resources, mining, water rights, energy, environment, surface lands, project finance, and corporate and commercial law. He has been recognized as leading lawyer in mining, natural resources, environment, and projects by several international publications such as Chambers, Latin American, Latin Lawyer, Who is Who Legal, Legal 500, and others. And then we have Oscar Benavides. Oscar is a partner in Rodrigo, Elias, and Medrano in Peru. Oscar specializes in mining law and project finance and mergers and acquisitions within the mining sector. Oscar has extensive experience over 20 years advising clients on project finance and M&A, as well as structuring, negotiating, and executing exploration, joint venture, and mining project investment contracts. His practice is focused on financing contracts, acquisitions, sale and joint venture agreements of companies and mining projects. He has also been consistently recognized, as all the panelists we are sharing with you this morning, by international and local publication of the likes of Legal 500, Chambers and Partners, Latin Lawyer, Who is Who, and etc. So we again thank you to all our attendees for taking the time to learn on Latin American mining. Our focus this morning will be in Colombia. I will be talking about Colombia, on Ecuador. Jaime will be talking about Ecuador, Peru, Oscar, and Chile. So we will be addressing three main topics and we'll be welcoming any questions that you may have. So please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to do any question that you want us to address. We will try to make our best efforts to provide a response. If not in live, we will provide response in written after the webinar. So today we'll be addressing 3 points, which are political economic situation in each of the countries affecting investments, and in particular mining, measures that have been taken by both the private sector and the public sector to promote mining and to mitigate the impacts of COVID. And finally, opportunities and challenges in respect to mining in our countries. With this in mind, and having welcomed each one of Jaime, Oscar, and Rafael, let's start. And thank you. So let's talk about the political and economical context in each of our countries. What has been happening? How are investments affected? This has been a difficult year. It has been a different year, at least. Not only COVID, We have a fall in oil prices. We have different political impacts, such as Peru. I guess Oscar will address those matters. So who wants to start? Perhaps Jaime wants to start with the political economic context and how it may affect investment, in particular in mining.
Oh, okay, thank you very much, Mariana. Welcome everybody to this conversation. It's a pleasure to be here joining our panel with our very distinguished panelists and friends. Well, as everybody suffered the consequences of the pandemic this year, Ecuador was severely impacted, not only because of the pandemic, but also because of the oil prices crisis, which, as you know, is our main source of income for the state. Also, the economy was paralyzed, as in many other countries. Ecuador GDP decreased 8.9%. Unemployment is currently 6.6, although that figure is not that realistic because there's a subemployment of around 23.4%. So we are starting to overcome these difficult times, but on the other side, we are entering into kind of sensitive political moments because we will have general elections, presidential general elections in February, as well as Congress renewal of all congressmen. So it's becoming a very political moments. The government is basically not doing that much now, basically taking care of the pandemic and certain good negotiations with the United States, but we don't foresee the government being very active in other areas in the few months that they will remain in power. So on the mining side, mining has, during these 4 years of President Moreno, a couple of important projects enter into production. Fruta del Norte, gold by Solvo, by Lundin, and Mirador by the Chinese state-owned companies, copper production. So that has raised the attention worldwide. There are several projects in advanced exploration that have immense potential and that most probably will be developed in the coming years. So mining is becoming very important in Ecuador in the midterm, and that's the good news. But on the other hand, we may be facing the risk of depending who is elected president, because we have at the moment 3 candidates: a center-right candidate, I would say a populist center-left, and a populist left-winged sided. So it will depend what happens in the elections, because each of the candidates has its own view about mining. There's definitely one that is anti-mining, and the others we are hopeful that they will realize that mining is part of the future of Ecuador. So yet to be seen what happens. So we will know something in the next months. So that's, I guess, Mariana, the general view of what's has happened and what's going on in the political situation in Ecuador.
Thank you, Jaime. So we had to be aware what's going to happen in February with these 3 main candidates to see what's going to happen with mining in Ecuador.
Well, you know, the polls, you cannot longer rely on what the polls say, but the most objective polls, the center-right candidate is leading. The populist, by saying, is a candidate from Mr. Rafael Correa political party. It's a young person, has never been involved in politics, but he has the support of the strong supporters of Rafael Correa. So he's second in the polls. And in the third place is Mr. Yacu Perez. Yacu Perez is a lawyer that represents indigenous groups. At least he says that he represents indigenous groups, and he's been very active against mining in the northern part of Ecuador. And I'm sorry, in the southern part of Ecuador, in Cuenca. He is a defensor of water. Actually, Yacu in Quechua means water. And he changed his name to Yacu Perez. And so he has been defending he's been opposing mining activities in water, in the highlands where the water sources for the city of Cuenca, the supply of water for the city of Cuenca. So he's been opposing to that. And actually there will be a consulta popular, a national, a local election in Cuenca about whether Cuenca city wants or not mining activities to be developed in those areas. So that's something that also will happen in February in the city of Cuenca. So I will talk later about this political activism against mining that might be affecting our investments, but that will be a matter of the next question. Thank you, Mariana.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So who wants to be next? Perhaps we want to hear about Peru. Oscar, we are so excited about it.
Sure, thanks, and hi to everyone, and thanks to everyone that is listening to us and is participating today. Peru, this is kind of a different speech that I have to do on Peru because it's been 2020. It's been for everyone, and Peru in particular, quite a pretty complex year, full of challenges. From the COVID/economical perspective, I have to say, this is all over the news, that COVID has hit very, very hard Peru. Unfortunately, we are only second to Belgium, the country with more deaths per million related to COVID. We were leading that semester ranking, but now we're second to Belgium. So COVID came as a surprise for us, and it has put an immense pressure over the country's economy, over the country's health system, and it has put into evidence something that, perhaps most of Peruvians knew, but didn't want to realize, at least on a daily basis, which are the huge challenges that our economy still has. We have been, a very, very, we have been a rising star in Latin America, even in the world. At some point in time, I think that we still have the possibilities of continue being such a star. But we need to understand that we need to have more solid bases and foundations in matters such as health. As from March 16, as you might know, the very first day in which peace, at least in Peru, broke loose all over, we had a very, very strict quarantine. We had a curfew that we are still having today. It's a kind of a silly curfew from midnight to 4 a.m. in the morning, so it's not that bad, but it began being as from 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So it was a pretty harsh curfew. And I would say that one of the things that we did in Peru, and we have been learning on all these measures, and which were successful and unfortunately which were not, is that there was a decision to actually essentially close most of the economy. In other countries, they decided to do something a bit different, or really different, which is continue with your things, continue working, except for A, B, C, D, E, and F. Here, the idea was essentially everything closes down, with exceptions, of course, and we will be telling you what has to be done, what can be reopened. That has proved to be, I don't know if effective in terms of pandemic. It's always going to be a question of whether what would have happened if the government didn't do that. Would have then been more people infected, more people killed? You will not know that. But what we know is that our GDP will shrink in about 12%. That's a figure that we believe will approximately be the one at the end in 2020. So that's a hit. That's a hit for the economy. What we're seeing as a good news is that the economy is recovering much faster than what was originally expected. September it has now only, and I would say only, contracted in 6.7%, which is a very good figure because we have had months of 20 or more percentage of economic decline. So we're expecting 2021 to be a big rebound on the Peruvian economy. I'm saying rebounds. That means that we will go back to where we were. That doesn't mean that we're going to grow in strict terms, but it's going to be a rebound, and perhaps it's going to be a two-figure rebound. So that will remain somehow optimistic. But of course, we have the flip side of that same coin of economics, which are politics. And you know, here in Peru, as you might know, and now it's evidence on that, we are very, very careful in choosing our presidents. It's something that we take a matter very, very seriously, and we take it so seriously that we have elected 3 of them in this year because we wanted to make sure that we had the right guy. So unfortunately, there has been some political instability. That's a big true, or that's a big reality. This has to do with several factors, and I'm not the one to explain which are the reasons for all of that, but certainly we do have a populist Congress now, a Congress that has been elected or has been in office since March, because I would say previous president, but the one previous to the one that we had before, he actually closed another Congress, and he caused this current Congress to be elected, and unfortunately for him, that same Congress decided to sack him. So we had elected a populist Congress that is trying to in a way connect with the needs of the population, which now are more and more evident, and there are a lot of very, very urgent needs to be addressed, but they're not doing it, unfortunately, in the right way. I'm sure there are pretty much good intentions in most of it, but there has been we have a very, very populist Congress right now that fortunately is going to end its term in a few months, and a new Congress is going to be elected. And that's from the political perspective, that is where we stand now, in terms that we are, as in Ecuador, having general elections on February, we're having general elections on April. You know, I was listening to Jaime, and I was very envious of what he was saying, that they have 3 candidates. We are, as far as we know, over 20 guys that think that they can be president. So we are going to have probably 20 plus candidates. Of course, not all of them are significant, but at least 10 of them have a view of themselves in high definition and think that they can actually be presidents, and they are, and they range in the polls. I've seen a poll this morning between 3 and 10%. This is too early to know what's going to happen. We have this, like in a grocery store, everything, there's all kind of candidates. There are, you know, very conservative ones, very liberal ones in the terms of North American, left guys. We have the whole menu. Our expectation, realistically, is that hopefully there will not be any radical elected. It's a thing that and I believe in this, that most of the core of the Peruvian voters want, you know, they don't want, they want peace in our politics. They want the economy to grow, and we're not for experiments anymore, as we have not been for experiments in the last 20 or 30 years. So I honestly think that trend should continue. But of course, we have a political campaign in front of us that's going to be challenging. The new and last ingredient that I wanted to talk about this morning on this context is that these elections will have a different taint as the other ones. As you might have seen in the news, about a month ago, there were very, very massive demonstrations principally led by students in Peru. It's something that we haven't seen in perhaps 20 years. At the time that Fujimori was left government, we haven't seen that. This is the first time we see it again. And there's now this sense of asking or discussing whether a new constitution should be approved or whether the current constitution should be amended, following a similar but not the same trend as our Chilean friends have had. So I guess that's going to be in the middle of the campaign. The following campaign is going to be a point of discussion, and I remain optimistic that reason is going to prevail, but still is something that we have to be waiting for its outcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Oscar. So let's keep optimistic and let's bet for the rebound in the economic sector and no change in the trend and respect to mining in Peru for the next election in April.
Mariana,
Yes?
may I have just the floor for
Sure.
a minute? Just a clarification with Oscar. Actually, we are not that civilized, Oscar. We have 16 candidates, 16. Now, the thing is that only 3 of them have options. The other ones, just as you say, is a potpourri of candidates. Just as clarification. Thank you, Mariana.
Right.
Very important clarification. Indeed. So we're going with 16, 20. So what about Chile? Rafa?
Yeah, thank you, Mariana. And it's a pleasure to be here and to tell a little bit of what is going on in our country. Despite of the growth and development accomplished, Chile is probably has the per capita basis and poverty levels, the top of in terms of superation of the poverty levels but the capital basis, the per capita basis is great. Unfortunately, Chile has not surpassed the ranges of inequality inspired by the majority of the population, and there are perceived abuses that generate social resentment, facts that trigger massive protests and social upheaval in October of the last year, demanding the country's wealth to be distributed more equally and other social demands, notwithstanding the empirical positive results Chile obtained these last 30 years. Under such a scenario, the most of the political parties with Congress representation, with the support of Presidente Piñera, aim to answer to social demands through institutional channels, calling for a national plebiscite to ask Chileans whether they wanted or not a new constitution to undertake the country's challenges under a new paradigm. And this constituting process is the first of the challenges that Chile is currently facing. And October 25, a little bit more than a month ago, a plebiscite was held here, and in an exemplary peaceful polling day in which almost 55% of the national electorate, more than 7.5 million people, voted for having rewriting the constitution and through a constituent convention. The constituent convention will be made up by 155 members, having gender parity between men and women, and possibly reserved seats for indigenous people. They will be democratically chosen elected in April 2021. The convention will have a term of 9 months with the option of a one-time extension of 3 months, a year in total, to draft a new constitution, which will be ultimately submitted again for approval of rejection in a referendum. Once its entrusted assignment ends, the Constitutional Convention will be dissolved and its members will be ineligible to hold publicly elected offices for 1 year. But the most important thing for understanding this process, and especially for foreign investors, is that there are certain, let's say, boundaries for discussing and rewriting the constitution. First of all, it must respect the character of the Republic, of the state of Chile, its democratic regime, final enforceable judicial decisions, and the treaties ratified by Chile and that are enforced today. Among the international treaties signed by Chile, it is worth highlighting the American Convention on Human Rights and the various free trade agreements signed between Chile and the rest of the countries, which is, a great stuff in order to understand what, or for foreign investors, as I said before. So it's worth mentioning that in 200 years of history as an independent nation, Chile has had several constitutions, all of which have preserved the same core aspects. So we envision that the new constitution will most probably follow the same tradition. In line with this, Moody's, just for giving you an example, has said that the potential for major and fundamental institutional changes due to the new constitution is low to moderate due to broad public support to preserve key elements of Chile's economic model, such as free markets, property rights, and independence of the central bank. And the second challenge that Chile is currently facing is how to recover from the deep economic and social consequences that the COVID pandemic has generated. Chile has not been an exception in worldwide. And COVID and its economic consequences have been a priority to the Chilean government, which has continuously worked since March 2020 to reduce the effect of the world and local economic upheaval on Chilean citizens, their families, and companies. The government emergency economic plan has focused on the protection of employment and income to families, as well as liquidity for SMEs, among many other measures. Also, the government has announced a broad plan to reactivate the economy, which has been implemented, including a robust plan of public investment in physical, social, and digital infrastructure. It is estimated that public investment for the period 2020 to 2022 will total of around $34 billion, 4.5 billion of which is additional investment for these purposes. This is generating actually new jobs in the last 3 months. We have 250,000 new jobs with public works being developed in every region of Chile in a decentralized manner. And the copper, the behavior of the copper price has been wonderful for us. You know that copper is the salary of Chile, as people say. And just for give you a number, for every cent that the price, the copper price raised, the state received between $60 and $100 million for every cent, which means that at the end, if the budget for this year was made based on $3 per pound, and the average today is 360, probably we will be having something around of $3 billion or $4 billion extras in income for the state, which is a great news. I will refer to the measures taken by the industry and government to promote mining and mitigate impacts from COVID in the next answer to your question. So that is the situation that Chile is facing today. The new constitution and the economic package, pushed by the state or by the government in order to recover the economy in Chile.
Thank you, Rafael. I think it's quite important to follow what is going to happen with that constituent convention. It is always important in our countries, in Latin America, and to follow those constitutional reform because of the impact and I can say because I am Venezuelan, and of different leaders and countries from left sides and left parties. Thank you very much. We will pass. I'll pass you the word in the next question. But I just wanted to conclude with Colombia. Colombia is the fourth largest economy. GDP growth in 2019 was 2.5%. Colombia is also the oldest democracy in Latin America. We are right now in 2020, in the middle of the term of the presidential term of Duque. Which has been great with many challenges. He is a pro-extractive industry, and that's quite important. So, in an effort to propel the economic forward, the government is pursuing fiscal, judicial, and other reforms that will improve judicial effectiveness and government integrity and reduce, of course, tax burden. This is with the purpose to reactivate the economy due to the high impact of mainly oil prices, fall of the oil prices, and the impact of the COVID, the pandemic, in the economy of Colombia. However, growing political polarization and the increasingly negative impact of certain issues such as still impacts of the guerrilla are making the task more difficult. Mainly what the government is dealing with is trying to look for that approval to the mining energy sector, obtaining that social license that is quite important. And for that purpose, one of the main steps that Colombia made this year was a royalty reform. We have been under a royalty system since 2011 that procure the revenues and the profits from the mining industry and the oil and gas industry and the extractive industries in general were allocated equally between the different regions. That was a change that was made in 2011 because before 80% of the revenues and profits from the extractive sector were allocated to the producing regions. So we're going back a little bit to what we had before 2011 with the purpose to get this a social license, a social approval that is quite important for the development of these projects. And the main change, because there are many changes in respect to that system, royalty system, is that resources for social investment in regions that participate in the mining and oil and gas sector will go from 11%, that is what we're receiving at the beginning of this year, to 25%. So that's really a big step with the purpose to get this approval. Well, with this context, let's keep moving on our next questions. Let's talk now about the measures that have been taken by both government in the public sector and the private sector to promote mining and to mitigate the impacts that this pandemic has caused in the development of activities. A little bit following up the conversation that we have been having before, but in particular, those measures that permitted that mining continue. Let's start with Oscar.
Thanks. Well, as I was saying, one of the first measures that the previous government took in face of COVID, of the pandemic, was to essentially close down the economy. Mining, or I would say large mining operations, were sort of an exception. And I say sort of an exception because the rules that were enacted were not that clear. And even more companies had a different approach to COVID as to the government measures. Some companies actually decided voluntarily to stop their operations. They suspended operations, because they privileged the aim of protecting their employees or reducing risks. But some other companies with exactly the same reason, they decided to move ahead with their operations, implementing a number of prevention and supervision measures. So the first days were uncertain, the first day of the pandemic. Mining did not stop completely, not at all, but it did stop. As a matter of fact, just in September, we have reached 85% of the mining sector of the pre-quarantine, I wouldn't say pre-COVID, but pre-quarantine employment rate in the mining industry. This is still, there is a 50% of jobs in mining that has not been recovered, that was lost as a result of the pandemic and the measures adopted in regard to the pandemic. But there's another good news, is that we have saved for, and these are figures that were released yesterday, except for gold, it said that all the other metals that we have produced have already either reached or actually surpassed the level of production that they had before the quarantine was ordered. So it's pretty good. It's the mining reactivation is happening. It's working well. Companies and the big companies or the big operations, I would say, they have implemented the very strict and very well thought protocols. They have been obliged, because of the rules of the government, but also because their own initiatives that are even more important than the ones that the government passed, a number of changes in their operations, in the housing, in the camps. They've implemented protocols on how to transport people on the work shift, etc. And honestly, they proved to be very successful. We have heard, as it was absolutely reasonable, of certain outbreaks in certain operations, but honestly, things have been managed very well by the industry. And I would say that the industry perhaps is not going to grow as we would like it to grow, but it is recovering fast, and that's the good news. To give you the figures are not as attractive as they were a number of years ago when we discussed about mining in Peru and how things were unfolding. But to give you an example, on September, we had a new investment of around $400 million, which is not that good because it's 30% less than we had September of 2019, but it's nearly 20% more than what we had in August of 2020. So things are beginning to as I was saying, recovering again. In terms of how, because it's not only how the government approached the issue, and I omitted saying that now mining was actually included in phase 1 of the 4-phased reactivation program that the Peruvian government released. The Peruvian government, in all its wisdom, decided that the economy should be reactivated in 4 phases. So they decided to include the industries, whatever industry, services, and whatever, in either 1, 2, 3, or phase 4. Mining went on phase 1, as it should. As it's similar to what happens in Chile. Mining for us is a very important component of our budget and of what needs to be done here in Peru for keep the engine going. I listened yesterday at the conference and someone saying that mining in Peru is not the engine of the economy, it's the engine of the engines of the economy, right? So the latest figures released here, they talk about that only mining, in opposition to what many people might believe, directly and indirectly could employ around 18% of the Peruvian population, which is a lot of people, right? So I guess that now it's clear for everyone, but still we're in that path of reactivating. But as I was saying, it's not only what the government and the industry did. Communities had something to do, happy to say, in the pandemic. Unfortunately, many communities, and I have to say that I very well understand what they did. I don't know, in the first months, but for quite a few months, they decided, not all, but several communities, not to let anyone foreign from the community to get into their lands, They just say, well, this is COVID, we don't want to get infected, you're not going through. And there were a number of exploration companies that, even though they had the possibility with all the protocols to go and explore and drill and do whatever they had to do to continue with the project, or lay the foundations for doing it afterwards, they just had to wait, right? Because the communities were protecting themselves. Locals were protecting themselves because they watched the news and they read papers and say, well, all of this is happening more in the big cities than in the rural areas. So let's keep the guys in the cities and let us keep ourselves here more healthy than others. So that has been a challenge, but my understanding is that situation has progressively been overcome now, and things are more clear because there's more information. And I guess that we're speaking before will be more between the panelists of how people is relaxing a bit with COVID measures, which I don't think is a good news, but probably it's not only relaxing, but getting more information and getting confidence on what can be done without getting infected. So in a nutshell, the conclusion is that I believe that the measures adopted by the industry and the government and the communities have been, number one, directed to coping with the pandemic, to preventing infections. Now we are more informed, we know better what to do, there's growing confidence. So that should be the trend of operations moving forward, getting back to where we were before the quarantine began, and hopefully achieve some improvements or that of which I will talk about in the last part of the presentation. Thanks.
Yes, indeed. And everybody's waiting for the last part of the presentation for opportunities of investments. But since you mentioned that in Chile, the situation was very similar, and I had to add, and I will jump this with Colombia, is that we have the same situation. Since, mining we have a general quarantine, something that we call in Spanish, aislamiento preventivo, so preventive isolation. We allow in Colombia the execution of mining activities to continue, subject to several particular biosecurity protocols that had to be published and issued by the companies following certain standards and terms issued by the government. And we face in Colombia several issues with communities too, because even though government and industry were working together, as well as you have mentioned, Oscar, in Peru, communities wanted, not all of them, sometimes to take advantage of that protocols implementation and requests additional favors or requirements or things from companies, such as construction of UCIs, intensive care units, or the provision of all the biosecurity equipment and for the whole community, things like that. But we have managed to continue activities with the less impact as possible. And that's something that we can see, for instance, since Buritica. This is a project of Continental Gold that entered into production, is one of the largest gold mining in Latin America, and is industrial mining, gold in Colombia being the first one, and it entered into production just in December. So we managed to do it, and the measures that were taken promptly, an opportunity, but both government and industry work. That happened in Colombia, but what happened in Chile, Rafa?
Yeah, I would say that in Chile, what has happened, is a virtual circle, formed by the companies and the government, and actually the companies and unions of entrepreneurs have set their action in three principles, I would say. First is protect the health and safety of its workers and the surrounding communities, maintain the operational continuity, and respect the payment chain so that there is no negative effect on minor providers or suppliers. With respect to protect the health and safety of this worker, the companies did not stop producing. What they did actually was reduce their staffing by between 30 to 35% in the top time of the COVID, to avoid contagion in the camps, implemented control access to work sites, reorganized the shifts, prevailing the 14 days shifts, transported in smaller groups to their city rooms, sanitized camps, etc. And among the concrete measures to support the communities where the companies operate as well as their providers or suppliers, they put over the table some financial and input support to local health services and to people and suppliers through the municipalities. Alliances with the hospital and clinics to contribute with virus detection tests, creation of funds to acquire supplies and improve hospitals, etc. Just to mention, BHP, Tech, Coyahuasi, Antofagasta Mineral, Michilla, Sierra Gorda, all those companies in the different places that they are located helped with important contributions in order to, continue operation, but at the same time in a safety mode. Regarding, the maintenance of the operational community, just to give you an idea, there are 30 large-scale mining operations in Chile, those producing more than 50,000 metric tons of copper per year, or its equivalent in other minerals. As I said before, did not stop it, and steps have been taken to continue, like what I said before, the shifts, etc. In medium-sized mining operations, more than 100 operating, only a couple of operations has been suspended. And in small mining, there have been a few. Though is different, however, with respect to those projects which were under construction, or which, had announced the start of their operation. Expansion, for example, expansions of Quebrada Blanca, La Coipa, Kinross, Codelco with the underground, Chuquicamata, they stop it. They stop it at the, in the hot season, let's say in the middle of winter here, July, August, and nowadays, October and beginning November, they have restarted with this, with the construction of those projects. And with respect to the payment chain, it has been quite, unbelievable what has happened in terms of the mine industry has secured, the payment of the suppliers in order to full help, to the people through the compliance of the payments. Otherwise, you can imagine if you don't pay, all the buildings, are destroyed. So, of course, the central bank, in coordination with the financial industry regulator, have announced measures loosening regulatory credit requirements and increasing the flow of credit in the case of mining sector, medium size. ENAMI, a state-owned company, have provided, some financial helps to the medium-sized mining companies and small size. So, just in a single word, we have been quite happy, or lucky, I would say, through, the continuation of the operations of the industry here in Chile. So, and that has not stopped it, and that has been critical in order to produce certain, revenues for the state and provide some money to, allocate that money in other programs, in other industries, and in other sector of the economy.
So excellent. That's good news, actually. Very good news in respect to Chile. Jaime, what happened in Ecuador? Did they suspend? Did they reactivate if they did suspend at some point?
Well, yeah, actually in Ecuador, the situation was a little bit different from Peru, Colombia, and Chile. Ecuador was, before the pandemic, was already facing very severe budget constraints um, for the government activities. We have a very high external debt with very severe conditions. And in one sense, the pandemic was good because it allowed the government to present to the world its real situation with the reduction of prices of oil. In addition, we have a kind of a landslide in the Amazon basin, which broke the two main pipelines transporting crude oil from the Amazon basin to the exporting ports. So, and also because of the pandemic, all the business were closed. The economy was basically stopped. So the government made a very good job in renegotiating the whole external debt in extremely good conditions. That's something that the future will have to recognize, the history will have to recognize this government, the great job that it did to renegotiate, which gave a certain relief to the Ecuadorian economy. In addition to that, not only the government was able to renegotiate external debt, but it was able to obtain fresh new credits, new loans to Ecuador in a very good conditions, which helped the government to basically overcome this critical year. So the government has been mainly focused on overcoming this very severe economic situation. During the initial months of the pandemic, as Oscar was mentioning, in Ecuador, basically all activities were suspended, all, except what were considered like critical, like the health activities, hospitals, medical doctors, police, the army forces, etc. But the rest of activities were basically closed, except also what we consider, our constitution considers the strategic sectors of the economy, which includes the extractive industry, which is oil, gas, and mining. So despite the fact that mining activities were supposed to be open and still going on and working, in reality, that didn't happen. As you know, Ecuador has a lot of mining exploration companies, which are most of them in the initial exploration or advanced exploration phase, others under economic evaluations of their deposits, and very few under production. So those companies that were under exploration and production, they had to suspend their activities, not because the law or by law they were obliged to do so, but in reality because of the breakout of the pandemic, some of the employees were contagiados or affected by COVID. They had to close the mines. Of course, exploration activities especially were suspended because, as Oscar and I think Rafael were mentioning as well, and you were mentioning, Mariana, the communities didn't allow any outsider to get into their areas. So so that was the reality. Now things are going back to normal. Hopefully, according to the Central Bank of Ecuador, the economy of Ecuador will recover during 2021 in the 3.1%. It's not enough yet because still will be still below 5.8% of what it was in 2019. But still, it's a good sign that the economy of Ecuador and the country will get back on track on business. Now, for the next question, of course, we'll reserve what are the opportunities and new challenges for the industry in Ecuador. Thank you, Mariana.
Thanks, Jaime. So three different aspects to take into consideration, but this context has given the chance to talk about new opportunities and new challenges. And I would like to start by Colombia. I'll take the word here because we have really good news to share As you know, in Colombia, traditional mining has been coal. But coal, as you know, has a really impact and footprint, environmental footprint. So the government is trying to move and diversify the industry to gold, that we have large production in gold, but mainly artisanal or small mining. So we want to move in Colombia with large production, industrial production on gold. And that's why I mentioned Buriticá, because it's a great example of industrial production of mining. But we also want to move forward to copper. And in that respect, copper is one of the strategic minerals that have been identified by the government as one of the transition minerals, you know, talking about the energy transition. And so copper and gold will take a particular and very important role. Now, besides the project that we are developing that are quite important, there's the Buriticá, the two projects that AngloGold Ashanti are being developed, one in Jericó, Quebradona y Gramadolote, which will have a huge impact in the production of copper. And in Colombia, we are in Colombia launching for the first time mining rounds. So that will be auctions or bidding rounds that will take place next year, hopefully. And that will, around 40 to 50 areas will be offered. And companies, both national and international, will be able to participate. That will be taking place in a way in an auction. So initial biddings will be submitted, then counter offers will be submitted, and the first offer will have the opportunity to submit and best offer against the best counter offer. That will be very interesting because it follows the way that oil and gas rounds and oil and gas contracts has been allocated in Colombia. So we're trying to unify this, and in the oil and gas sector has been very successful with a rate of 52% in the first round and recently 100% of success in the third round for the oil and gas sector. And this follows the recommendation of the World Bank that states that we in Colombia allocated mining contracts in general pursuant to the mining code, following the principle of first come, first serve. So if a company or an individual requests an area that is free and meet the different requirements, that area will be allocated to them. The bidding rounds will be a different approach. And the purpose is to bring and to attract investment into Colombia with high standards, high operational standards, high economic and financial capacity, so that they can be able to pursue these strategic projects that has been selected by the mining agency, by the government, that offers several economic benefits, such as the partial payment of the surface fee, the recovery of surface fee in the exploitation stage. So it's a great opportunity. Further information I will be happy to share because there's a lot to do. And one of the other main changes and main opportunities that has been developed in Colombia, it was Ana Minería, as the name of the new cadastre and in Colombia. And that is also a great development because it talks about innovation and automatization, and it reduces the timing for the allocation of contracts by 50%. So the cadastre because it's already working, is a platform in which companies can do, is a transactional, actual platform. So companies can request titles, can request assignments, can request allocation of new areas, pay royalties, pay surface fee, and follow what is going on with their titles. So plenty of opportunities in Colombia with a government that is stable and democratic, that is doing the best to obtain social license, and by a country that is looking forward to receive new investments. That will be Colombia, and I will be happy to pass the floor to Jaime, for instance, to talk about the new opportunities and challenges in Ecuador.
Thank you, Mariana. Well, I wish I'd be as optimistic as you are regarding Ecuador. Despite Ecuador having huge, immense reserves of minerals yet to be discovered, the potential is huge because you cannot, minerals don't disappear because of boundaries, and Peru is full of minerals as well as in Colombia. So in Ecuador, mines are there yet to be exploited. But having said that, on the other hand, we are facing some obstacles that will need to be overcome in the near future, and this is a task for the new government. I would like to basically point out a couple of them. One is the opening of the mining Catastro Minero. In Ecuador, it's been closed for the last 4 years. In Ecuador, we have our legal framework allows companies to obtain concessions through auction processes that are opened by and launched by the government and are based on the mining cadastre. And companies are allowed to request areas based on that cadastre. And that cadastre, for one reason or another, the government closed it at the back in early 2000. Was 2018, and it's been closed since then. So the only activities that we've seen is transactions of assignment of rights of already awarded concessions between companies. So that's something the government will have to work in the initial months of their activities if they want to show interest in mining. The other thing that is urgent, and we are facing this problem, I think it's a common problem among Latin American countries. Yesterday, I was reading an article about Mexico, which it looks exactly like in Ecuador, which is the public consultation process, the indigenous public consultation process. That's been in our constitution since 2008. And nobody has dared to put, how you say in Espanol, the cascabel al gato, in the sense that they've been wishy-washy about how to legislate about this public consultation process. They haven't been able to do it. It's an extremely political sensitive issue. And but that, on the other hand, the lack of this clear regulation about the public consultation process to original populations gave the possibility to radical NGOs, politicians, to act against the mining activity, either by filing judicial actions, acciones de protección, the ombudsman being very active, claiming that mining activities shouldn't be conducted in areas where indigenous communities are located without the prior consultation process. Now, in Ecuador, we have a huge issue with that because there's not a clear definition. It's what's considered an indigenous population, or Afro-American, Afro-Ecuadorian population, or what we call Montubios, which are basically indigenous people from the coast side. So it's not defined. So nowadays, any town, any little town located in a rural area consider itself as indigenous population, and they claim rights to be consulted. So that's something that the new government through parliament will have to take immediate action to solve this situation. Illegal mining is another issue which affects basically gold deposits, concession areas that have been subject to mining illegal activities by illegal miners. So basically, in summary, the potential is there. The future of Ecuador, to a great extent, will depend on the development of mining. The oil industry is an old industry. In Ecuador, there are not that many deposits or areas besides some remote areas in the Amazon basin to be explored, whereas mining is there, is waiting for us. But the government has to take has to give strong messages to foreign investors and to local investors that whomever comes to the country will have juridical security to work. There are several projects which are in jeopardy this moment because of judicial actions, because of political issues that needs to be resolved very soon. So that would be my point of view regarding the challenges of Ecuador in the near future.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. Very interesting for our attendees. So let's keep with Rafael. Rafael, what can you say about opportunities and challenges in Chile?
Yeah, I would say that I mean, for my surprise, or for my good surprise, I have seen, you know, quite active the exploration in the last few months, you know, and including newcomers. And it's coincident with what we received from Guillaume Legat. I don't know if I pronounced the name correctly. Somebody who is in the audience right now telling us that there is a, you know, a great opportunity in the TSX. And actually, I have seen 3 or 4 companies coming supported by TSX. So I was reviewing the pipeline of exploration projects, and for my surprise again, I have seen, you know, not only this, which we are handling as a law firm, but also, you know, several projects being run. And in the exploitation area, I would say that there are some, as I said before, there are some expansion of certain projects which are, you know, which are demanding a lot of work and huge investments. The pipeline of projects for the next 5 years here in Chile is around $35 billion, and actually the current projects are of around $8 or almost $10 million. And there are new projects, which is the case of Salares Norte, the Goldfield, is the phase 7 of La Coipa, and together with this new project, what I'm seeing, you know, and is an opportunity, you know, a instead of collateral damage, collateral benefit, you know, is what is going on with the desalination project. Actually, I mean, currently there are some projects to desalinate the water because of you know, the lack of water in the northern part of Chile, and basically the water that you extract from the holes in the areas of the mines are used for the communities but not for the copper or mining projects, and therefore they are using the big ones, you know, they're using the desalinated water. So in that sense, you know, there are some opportunities as well, you know. In infrastructure, I see also some good news, you know, and in addition to the general, you know, infrastructure issues, what I would like to remark, you know, is the opportunities in the non-conventional renewable energies projects, which are also some of them suppliers of the mining industry, and they are being conducted by the mining industry, or I mean by mining companies, or with a great PPAs subscribed by the mining companies with these non-conventional renewable energy producers. So it's quite active, the industry right now, of course. I mean, having in mind that we are coming, you know, from a pandemic situation, but I'm quite optimistic with what is going on for the future, and taking into consideration as well the good copper price that we are having, and the estimation of the copper price for the year 2021 and 2022. I would suspect that there will be some movements in this regard. So it's quite good, and I think that the economical package of the government pushing for recovering the economy in our country will help as well for these purposes. So that's the case.
That's a very interesting case, indeed. Thank you for sharing. And Peru, Oscar, we really want to hear what are the opportunities in Peru.
I'm happy to tell you, but I think that we are running out of time, so I'll be as concrete as I can. Opportunities are immense. Rafa mentioned that they had around 30 operating large mines in Chile. Perhaps we have 15, right? So and we have a very, very there's big room for mining to continue being what it is in our economy and to be a global player. Just to give you a couple of examples, and I'm trying to be quick with this. According to the government, the mining portfolio, or the Peruvian mining portfolio, is made up of 46 projects that are already in pre-feasibility, or even better, feasibility, construction. There's 46 of them that could be very well become, or should become, a mine. Just to give you an example, the estimate is that if all of those projects are become a mine, and this, I double checked this figure and it seems to be right, but it's impressive. 2.5 million jobs would be created directly or indirectly. In a country of out of 33 or 34 million people, 2.8, it's actually figure million jobs is quite substantial. I'm not saying that we're going to become Switzerland, but it will help a lot to move forward in this struggle. So we do have the projects, we do have the discoveries, and the opportunities are immense in every aspect. They're really immense. The country as such, the policy of the mining industry, and the objective is to attract around 8% of the global exploration expense, which is something that is ambitious but can be done. But as the opportunities are immense, the challenges are quite relevant as well. And just to give you an example, I'll make very brief reference to 3 of them. One, social license. I really hate the term, but it's now more and more meaningful, right? It's absolutely impossible to do nothing here, I would say anywhere, if there's not you're able to convey what are the benefits, what needs to be done, what can be done by mining, right? So getting the people on board is absolutely critical, and that's something that we need to do as an industry. The government has to do a lot, and that's a challenge. That's a pending and outstanding challenge. And number 2, the red tape. We need to cut the red tape. Permitting is still very complex. In my view, it seems to me that the lawyers have been, creating all this red tape because that just makes us have more work, but not the work that we can. And on the long term, it's going to play against all of us. So as it is actually. So red tape needs to be thought again. And third, Jaime mentioned the indigenous prior consultation proceedings. That is something that for us is very important. It's not only very important because it is fair, it has to be done, but it has to be done when it has to be done, when it reasonably needs to be done. There's a push now, and this is the first time I've ever heard this coming from the government directly. The government, the new Minister of Mining, has gone public to propose that this indigenous consultation be not done at the exploration stage. That needs to be done only at other stages, which is of course something absolutely reasonable and logical. And you would say, who the heck would think the contrary? Well, we've been doing prior consultation in exploration, and that has been delaying a lot of exploration. And of course, it's a nonsense because what are you going to tell the people about the project? You have not even explored it. So what are you doing? You're pushing companies or the government in this case to just tell stories to the people about something that they don't have a clue what they have at hand. So we are, that should be a change. That should be a good change. But of course, even within the same government, there are, some sectors that say, well, this is not something acceptable. This is going to be something going back on all the things that we have achieved from an environmental perspective. So it's a struggle that I guess that all countries have, but hopefully we'll have a change in the near future, in the next year or so, and we'll be able to boost exploration as well. But again, this is a country full of opportunities, but opportunities come with challenges. So hopefully we'll be able to cope with them. Thanks.
Thank you, Oscar. And so your last phrase is the main conclusion. So great opportunities, huge opportunities, and any opportunities brings challenges. And the important thing is to have the first to have the intent to address such challenges, and then taking the measures to do it. So we face the same challenges, prior consultation, social license. I agree with you. I don't like that term, but as something that every day is taking more and more importance. And here we are, Colombia, Chile, Peru, and Ecuador. This is a short summary of our countries, our opportunities, our challenges. We will be more than happy to address any further questions. You know where to contact us. And here we are from Brigard Urrutia, Rodriguez, Elias Medrano, Carey, and PVP. So thanks to my amazing panelists. I have a blast, absolutely sharing this time with you, Jaime, Oscar, and Rafael. Thanks for the panel, for the attendees to stay with us during this hour. Thanks to all for your comments. And on my part, I'll say, see you later. Jaime, Oscar, and Rafael, I give you the last words to say goodbye.
Jaime?
Well, thank you very much to everybody that attended this meeting. It's been a pleasure discussing and having this very nice conversation. I identified there are several problems in common. We have kind of similar challenges, but the future is to be constructed. So we hope the companies decide to visit, in my particular case, visit Ecuador. We are waiting for you. The opportunities are here, the challenges as well, but the minerals are waiting. See, so thank you for all your attention to this conversation. Keep safe. Goodbye.
Thank you, Mariana, again for having organized this, and to Brigard Urrutia firm, and to the co-panelists. I really appreciate the opportunity to be part of this so distinguished panel. I think that we have common issues, common challenges, and it's nice or it's good to hear that we are facing challenging times, but at the same time opportunities, and I quite sure that we will have good times in terms of opportunities, and we are part of the teams that we have to create those opportunities, and I'm sure that we will do it.
There's not much that I can add, so thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to do something similar in the near future, in the benefit of all friends, and thanks again. It's been a pleasure. Ciao.
Sorry. Have a great day. Enjoy your holidays. Take care. And until the next year, Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Bye.